So far, you have only created skins with two component states. In this video, you learn how to define additional states in the component skin. You will also implement animated transitions between three states. This is the completed Employee Portal application for this video. You can see that the button in the Employee of the Month panel is a blue rectangle that is curved in the upper right corner to match the application header's upper right corner. When I mouse over the button, it turns green and grows wider. When I click the button, it returns to its original size and changes color to a dark gray. When I release the button, it springs back to its larger green size, and when I mouse off of it, it slowly resizes back to its original size. In this video, I will show you how to handle the additional button component states in the skin and how to create the animated transitions between them. This is the language reference for the Spark button control. Not all controls have multiple states, but the button control does. I'm clicking on the Skin States link in the upper right corner and expanding the Inherited Skin States link. You can see that this control has 4 states. I'm opening the button with states skin.mxml file from the skins directory. Note that it has a host component directive that makes a contract with the Spark button class. It also contains a label control that represents the label display skin part that handles the label text on the button control. You learned about skin parts in the last video. In the properties of the parent section of the skin class, I'm creating a states block and defining 4 states: up, over, down, and disabled. Next, I want to create a rectangular background for the button with different fill colors for each state. Below the UI components comment, I am creating an instance of the rect mxml tag and giving it an ID property of button color. I will use this identifier when I create the transitions to animate the button. I'm also giving the rect instance a left property of 0 and right, top, and bottom properties of 0 as well. This will ensure that the rectangular background always fills the entire button surface. I am adding the top right radius x property with a value of 3. This will round the upper right corner of the button skin and make it resemble the shape of the header skin. Between the rect tags, I'm creating a fill property. Inside the fill property, I'm creating a solid color instance with a color dot up value set to blue, pound 0074AA. This represents the color displayed when the button is in the up state. I am adding a color dot over property set to green, pound 64BC48, and a color dot down property set to dark gray, pound 555555. Next, I want to apply the skin to the button instance. I'm saving the file and then opening the Employee of the Month custom component and locating the button control instance. I am adding the skin class property and referencing the skins.button with states skin class. I am saving the file and running the application. You can see that the skin has been applied to the button and that the states are also applied. However, the label control for the button is a little difficult to see. Back in the skin class file, I am adding a color property to the label control and giving it a value of white, pound FFFFFF. Now when I save the file and run the application, you can more easily see the text. The last element of the skin that I want to create is the animation between the states. At the top of the skin file, I'm creating a transitions property below the states property. Within the property, I'm creating one transition instance with a from state set to up and a to state set to over. When the button transitions from its up state to its over state, I want the button to grow wider. Between the transition tags, I'm adding a resize effect to target the button color instance, which is the rectangular shape that I created earlier. I'm adding a width by property set to 25 pixels. This resize effect will run for 1 second, which is the default duration for the animation. As it runs, the effect will continue to resize the button by 20 pixels at a time. When I save the file and run the application, you can see that the button control grows when I mouse over it, but it jumps back to its original width after the animation plays. I am locating the rect instance and setting a width dot over property value to 90 pixels. When I save the file and run the application and mouse over the button, the animation plays and the button control remains large as expected. However, when I click the button control, the size changes abruptly back to its original size. Back in the skin file, I'm copying the transition block and pasting a copy below the first. I am changing the from state value to over and the to state value to down, and then the width by property of the resize effect to -25. Again, in the rect instance, I am adding a width property, but now for the down state with a value of 65 pixels. I'm saving the file and running the application. I'm mousing over the button and then clicking on it to see that the button now resizes smoothly down. When I release the button control from its down state, the animation jumps back to the over state. That's fine, but when I roll off the button, I want a smoother transition back to the up state. I'm copying the over state to down state transition and pasting it as the last transition block. I'm changing the to state to up and then saving the file. I don't need to change the resize property since I want the button to slowly resize to the smaller size when I mouse off the control. I'm running the application and rolling over and off the button. You can see that the control responds with a smooth animation. For your next step, work through the exercise titled Animating Button Component States.